Liam had always dreamed of a peaceful place to call his own. Ever since he was a child, he loved spending time near water, listening to birds and feeling the soft breeze against his face. As he grew older, he decided that one day he would own a small cabin near a lake, where he could wake up every morning to the sound of gentle waves and the smell of fresh pine. After years of saving, Liam finally bought a cozy cabin on the edge of a beautiful lake. The cabin was small but sturdy, with wooden walls that glowed warmly in the sunlight and a tiny porch that overlooked the water. He spent his first night there feeling a mixture of excitement and peace. For the first time in his life, he had a place that was truly his. The next morning, Liam woke up early as usual. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting golden light across the lake. He could hear the soft chirping of birds and the distant splash of fish jumping in the water. He stepped out onto the porch, took a deep breath, and smiled. The world felt calm, simple, and beautiful. After a cup of tea, he decided to take a walk along the lakeside path. The path was narrow and winding, bordered by tall pine trees on one side and the sparkling lake on the other. Liam loved how quiet it was. He could hear his own footsteps on the dirt path, the rustle of leaves in the wind and the gentle ripple of water against the shore. It was the kind of peace that city life never gave him. As he walked, he noticed wildflowers growing along the edges of the path. Bright yellow, soft purple, and delicate white flowers swayed gently in the breeze. He bent down to touch a few, enjoying their soft petals. A butterfly flitted past, landing briefly on one of the blooms before flying away. Everything seemed perfect. Liam felt like he had finally found the life he had always wanted. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he noticed someone standing further down the path. A woman was approaching quickly. She wore a neatly pressed blouse, a skirt, and held a clipboard tightly in her hand. Her expression was sharp and serious. Liam slowed down, curious but cautious. "Excuse me," the woman said firmly as she came closer. "You cannot be here. This property is not yours. You must leave immediately." Liam blinked in surprise. He had not expected anyone else to be around, and certainly not someone telling him to leave his own cabin. "I'm sorry," he said politely. "I own this cabin. I have all the legal papers. I pay taxes here. This is my property." The woman's eyes narrowed. "I am the president of the local HOA," she said, her tone strict. "According to the community rules, you are not allowed here without permission. If you do not leave, I will have to call the authorities." Liam felt a small frown form on his face. He had never met anyone like this woman, and he did not understand why she would think she had the right to tell him to leave his own property. But he remained calm. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding," he said. "I am happy to show you my documents. You will see that this land and the cabin belong to me." The woman's lips pressed together, but she did not move away. "I have already warned you," she said. "If you do not leave now, I will call 911. Liam took a deep breath and smiled quietly to himself. He had seen people like this before. People who liked to feel powerful even if they were wrong. But he also knew something that she did not. The small cabin she thought was at the edge of the community was actually part of a much larger area he owned. He had spent years collecting maps, property records, and legal documents, all of which proved that he owned not just the cabin, but the land surrounding the lake and much more. He stayed calm and said, "You are free to call the authorities if you wish. I am confident they will see that I have every right to be here." The woman's eyes widened slightly. She hesitated, then reached for her phone. Liam watched her as she dialed the number. He could feel the tension in the air, but he did not panic. He knew the truth was on his side, and that gave him confidence. As she spoke into the phone, explaining the situation to the authorities, Liam walked slowly toward his cabin. The path felt the same as it always did, lined with flowers, trees, and the gentle sounds of the lake. He felt a sense of calm that nothing could disturb. He reached his cabin and stepped onto the porch, where the sunlight made the wooden railing glow warmly. He opened his cabin door and walked inside, glancing around at the small space he now called home. Everything was simple but beautiful. There was a wooden table with 2 chairs, a small kitchen area, a cozy bed, and shelves filled with books. He loved every corner of it. After a moment, Liam pulled out his safe and opened it. Inside were important papers, maps, and documents proving his ownership. He carefully spread them on the table and reviewed them one by one. Every map, every deed, every tax document confirmed what he already knew. He owned not only the cabin but the entire Lakeside area and a large portion of the surrounding county. The woman on the phone had no idea what she was about to encounter. Liam could hear her voice through the cabin window, still insisting that he leave. He shook his head slightly, smiling to himself. People often act without knowing the whole truth. Today was one of those days. Liam knew the authorities would arrive soon. When they did, he planned to greet them politely and explain everything clearly. He believed in honesty, calmness, and patience, and he trusted that the truth would come out. Meanwhile, the woman finished her call and hung up the phone, still looking at him with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. She had assumed she had power over the situation, but Liam's confidence and calm demeanor made her pause. He stepped out onto the porch again and looked at the lake. The water sparkled in the morning sun. Birds flew above and fish jumped occasionally, creating small ripples that moved gently across the surface. The world was quiet, beautiful, and full of life. Liam took a deep breath, feeling the peace of the lake fill him completely. He turned his attention back to the woman who was still standing on the path. "I understand you are concerned," Liam said kindly. "But I assure you I have every right to be here. I am happy to show my documents to the authorities and explain everything clearly." The woman opened her mouth to speak but hesitated. She seemed unsure for the first time. Liam noticed the change in her expression and remained calm. He knew that soon the truth would become clear. As he waited, he walked slowly along the edge of the porch, enjoying the gentle breeze and the sounds of nature. He could see small birds hopping along the ground and leaves rustling in the trees. The lake reflected the blue sky, and a few clouds moved slowly across the horizon. Everything felt perfect, untouched, and peaceful. Liam smiled quietly. Today, he thought, would be an interesting day. He had always wanted a peaceful life at the lake, but now he realized that even in the quietest places, surprises could happen. He was ready to face whatever came, knowing that honesty, patience, and calmness would guide him. The woman finally lowered her phone. Liam noticed that she seemed unsure of what to do next. He stood still, calm and patient, knowing that the authorities would arrive soon and clarify everything. For now, the lake remained peaceful. The birds sang, the water shimmered, and Liam's cabin stood quietly, a small but strong reminder of his dreams, patience, and the power of knowing the truth. Karen finally ended her phone call. She lowered her hand slowly, her eyes still fixed on Liam, who stood calmly on the porch. He looked peaceful, as if he were enjoying a quiet morning at the lake, unaware of her frustration. But Liam knew exactly what was happening. The woman had called the authorities, and soon official help would arrive. Minutes passed, and Liam continued to enjoy the scenery. The sunlight sparkled across the water, casting golden reflections that danced gently on the lake's surface. Birds chirped and flitted between the trees. He could hear the occasional splash of a fish jumping out of the water. Everything seemed as calm as ever, and yet a small tension hung in the air because of Karen's presence. Then, in the distance, the sound of an approaching vehicle caught Liam's attention. A police car slowly came down the path, stopping near the edge of the lake. Two officers stepped out, their uniforms neat and tidy. They carried clipboards and walked carefully, looking around to assess the situation. Liam stepped forward politely, raising his hand in greeting. "Good morning, officers," he said with a gentle smile. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding. May I explain?" The first officer, a tall man with a kind face, nodded. "Certainly, sir," he said. "We received a call about a man on property that supposedly doesn't belong to him." "Can you tell us what's going on?" Liam gestured toward his cabin. "I own this cabin," he explained calmly. "I have lived here for some time. I pay taxes and maintain this property. The woman over there who called you seems to believe that I am not allowed to be here, but I have all the legal documents showing that this land and the cabin belong to me." The officers exchanged a glance. The second officer, a shorter woman with sharp eyes, took out her notebook. "Do you have those documents with you?" she asked. Liam nodded. "Of course. I keep them safe here in my cabin. Please follow me inside and I will show you everything." Karen's eyes widened. She had assumed that calling the authorities would force Liam to leave, but now she realized the situation might not go as she expected. She stepped back slightly, holding her clipboard tightly. She seemed unsure of how to act next. Inside the cabin, Liam opened a small safe and carefully pulled out his property documents. There were maps showing the boundaries of the land, Official deeds signed and stamped by the county office and tax records proving ownership. He spread them neatly on the wooden table, making sure everything was easy to read. The officers leaned over the documents, examining each one carefully. The maps clearly showed the cabin's location and the surrounding land. The deeds confirmed Liam's ownership of the property, and the tax records matched perfectly. The tall officer looked up. "Sir, these documents seem to be in order," he said. "Everything appears to confirm that you own this land." Liam nodded calmly. "That is correct. I have collected these documents over several years. I am happy to provide any additional proof if needed, but everything here is official and verified." Karen stepped forward, trying to regain her composure. I am the president of the HOA, she said nervously. "I thought I had the authority to enforce community rules. I didn't realize—" She trailed off, realizing that her words were meaningless in the face of official documents proving Liam's ownership. The female officer spoke gently but firmly. "HOA rules apply only within the limits of the properties that belong to the association. If this land is not part of the HOA, then their rules do not apply. Ownership is clearly defined in these documents." Karen's face turned a shade of red as she looked at Liam. She seemed to struggle for words. Her authority, which she had assumed was absolute, now appeared completely ineffective. Liam stayed calm, his gentle smile never leaving his face. He had expected that the truth would come out, and it was unfolding exactly as he anticipated. The officers took some time to review the maps and documents in detail. They checked the boundaries, the signatures, and the official stamps. Every record matched perfectly. Liam patiently answered their questions, pointing out specific details on the maps and explaining the tax information. After a while, the tall officer finally spoke. "Karen, it seems that you were mistaken. This property is legally owned by Mr. Liam. Your HOA rules do not apply here. He has every right to be on this land and in this cabin." Karen blinked several times as if trying to process the information. I just thought I was protecting the community," she said softly. Liam nodded politely. "It is natural to want to protect a community," he said. "But it is also important to understand boundaries and ownership. Rules can only be applied where they have authority. In this case, my property is outside the jurisdiction of the HOA, and the law confirms it." The officers closed their notebooks and nodded. "Thank you for showing us everything clearly, sir," the female officer said. "It is always best to resolve situations like this with proper documents and calm discussion. It seems there is no further action needed from us." Karen lowered her clipboard completely. She looked at Liam with a mixture of embarrassment and surprise. For the first time, she realized that assumptions and power without facts could lead to mistakes. She had believed she was right, but the evidence said otherwise. Liam offered a small smile. "I understand that mistakes happen," he said kindly. "I hope this helps clarify the situation. I respect community rules when they apply, but I also expect that my rights as a property owner will be respected." Karen nodded slowly. "Yes, I understand now," she said quietly. I will be more careful in the future. I didn't realize this land belonged to you." The officers gave a polite nod to both of them and returned to their car. The quiet hum of the engine faded as they drove away, leaving the lake once again peaceful and calm. Liam stepped outside and took a deep breath. The sunlight reflected on the water and the gentle breeze rustled the trees. Birds flew across the sky and the lake shimmered with golden light. Everything was back to the serene, calm world he loved so much. Karen stood quietly on the path, looking at the lake. She seemed to be reflecting on what had happened. Liam noticed the change in her expression. She no longer looked angry or commanding. Instead, she seemed thoughtful, realizing that understanding, patience, and respect were more important than enforcing rules blindly. Liam walked slowly to the edge of the lake. He dipped his hand in the cool water, enjoying the soft ripple it made. He could feel the tension from earlier melt away. The lake, the trees, the flowers, and the birds all reminded him why he had chosen this place. It was not just a home, it was a sanctuary. He looked back at the cabin, then at Karen. "I hope that today we have both learned something important," he said gently. "Rules and authority are important, but they must be applied correctly and fairly. Understanding facts is always the best first step." Karen nodded again, this time with a small smile. She seemed to appreciate his calm and polite approach. She realized that confrontation was not always the best way to handle a situation. Sometimes patience, kindness, and clear evidence could solve problems far more effectively than anger or force. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting warm light across the lake. Liam felt a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. The confrontation was over and truth and fairness had won. He could continue to enjoy his mornings at the cabin, knowing that everything was rightfully his and that respect and understanding had prevailed. Karen finally turned to leave, walking slowly along the path. She looked back once at the lake, then smiled faintly. Liam waved to her politely, wishing her well. The two of them now understood each other better, and the tension from earlier had completely disappeared. Liam returned to his porch and sat in his chair, sipping a cup of tea. The gentle sounds of nature surrounded him. The water lapped softly at the shore, birds sang in the trees, and the sunlight painted the cabin walls in warm gold. For the first time in months, he felt completely at peace. He thought about how quickly assumptions can lead to misunderstandings. Today had been an important lesson, for Karen, for him, and for anyone who witnessed the events. Knowledge, patience, and respect were the keys to resolving conflicts peacefully. Liam smiled to himself. Life at the lake was peaceful, but he now realized it could also be full of unexpected lessons. He felt ready for anything, knowing that calmness and truth were always powerful allies. As the day continued, Liam enjoyed the quiet beauty of his cabin, the lake, and the surrounding land. Everything was exactly as it should be, and he felt grateful for the calm, for the lessons learned, and for the promise of many more peaceful mornings at the lake. Karen stood at the edge of the lake, staring at Liam with a mixture of disbelief and confusion. She had always believed that her role as the president of the HOA gave her authority over the entire community. She had enforced rules, reminded neighbors about guidelines, and even taken complaints seriously for years. But now she realized that everything she had assumed about her control was wrong. Liam noticed her hesitation. He remained calm and composed, his gentle smile never fading. He had expected this reaction. People often feel powerful when they enforce rules, but true authority comes from knowledge and fairness, not assumptions or appearances. Karen, he said quietly, I understand that you want to protect the community. That is a good intention, but you must also understand boundaries and legal ownership. Authority cannot extend beyond its limits. Karen took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. I just thought I was doing the right thing, she said. I didn't know. I didn't realize this land belonged to you in such a way. Liam nodded. It is easy to make mistakes when you act without full information. That is why I keep these documents. They show not only the cabin but the entire Lakeside area, and even a large part of the surrounding county. This land is legally mine. Karen's eyes widened. Her mind tried to process the scale of what Liam had just said. A small cabin was one thing, but owning an entire lake area and much of the surrounding land, that was something she had never imagined. Her authority, which she had believed was unquestionable, suddenly seemed meaningless. The officers had already seen the documents, and they confirmed everything. Karen had no choice but to accept the facts. She looked down at the ground, feeling a mix of embarrassment and awe. She had been so confident moments ago, yet now she realized how little she truly knew. Liam stepped closer to the edge of the porch and gestured toward the lake. You see this lake? He asked calmly. I own the land around it, the water rights and most of the area beyond. Everything here is legally under my ownership. That is why your HOA rules cannot apply. They were never meant to control land that is privately owned outside the community's limits. Karen nodded slowly, her voice quiet. I understand. I really didn't know. I thought this was part of the community. I thought I had a responsibility to enforce rules. But I see now that I was mistaken. Liam smiled gently. It is natural to want to help and to enforce rules, but authority must always be based on facts. Today we both learned an important lesson. Respecting boundaries and ownership is as important as maintaining order. Karen looked around at the cabin and the lake. The sunlight reflected on the water, making it sparkle as if it were covered with tiny golden diamonds. The trees swayed gently in the wind and birds flew gracefully overhead. She felt a sense of wonder. For the first time, she saw the land not as a place to control but as a place of beauty, life, and freedom. I am sorry, Karen said softly. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now that I was wrong. I should have asked first and checked the facts. Liam nodded. Apology accepted. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and move forward. This land is meant to be enjoyed and protected, not to be a source of conflict. Karen's eyes softened as she looked at the cabin. She realized that this place was not just a home for Liam. It was a sanctuary, a place where he could live peacefully and enjoy nature without unnecessary interference. She felt a quiet admiration for his patience and calmness. Liam gestured toward the surrounding area. I have always tried to take care of this land, he said. I respect nature, the lake, the trees, and the animals. I also respect people who visit as long as they do so responsibly. Authority without understanding often leads to mistakes, but respect and knowledge create harmony. Karen nodded again. I understand. I will be more careful in the future. I will not assume anything about property or authority without checking the facts first. I see now how important it is to understand the law and ownership. The officers watched silently, allowing the two of them to speak and resolve the situation. They had seen similar misunderstandings before, but this one was unusual. It was rare for someone to have such a large property, and for a community authority to be completely unaware of it. They appreciated Liam's calm and respectful approach, which had made the entire process peaceful and clear. Liam smiled again, his eyes calm and gentle. Thank you for understanding, Karen. I know it is not easy to admit a mistake, especially when you feel responsible for others. But learning and growing from mistakes is always valuable. Karen took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief. The tension that had filled the morning had vanished. She looked at the lake, then at Liam, and finally smiled faintly. Yes, you are right. I will remember this lesson. Authority must always be guided by knowledge, fairness, and respect. Liam nodded. Exactly. This land is a place of peace, and it should remain that way. I hope we can both appreciate it and protect it without unnecessary conflict. The officers finally spoke, breaking the silence. It seems that everything is in order, the tall officer said. There is no further action needed from us. We are glad that this situation was resolved calmly and respectfully. Karen nodded, acknowledging the officer's words. She looked around the lake one more time, taking in the beauty of the water, the trees, and the cabin. She realized that this was more than just property. It was a place of life, harmony, and understanding. She felt a quiet appreciation for the way Liam had handled the situation. Liam stepped closer to her and offered a hand in friendship. We may have started this morning with a misunderstanding, he said kindly, but now I hope we can end it with respect and cooperation. There is enough room here for everyone to enjoy this place peacefully. Karen hesitated for a moment, then shook his hand gently. Yes, she said softly. Thank you for your patience and for showing me the truth. I will not forget this lesson. The officers smiled, satisfied that their visit had ended without conflict. They returned to their car and drove away slowly, leaving the lake and cabin in peaceful silence. Liam watched them go, then turned back to the lake, feeling the calm return. Karen stayed for a few moments longer, walking slowly along the path by the water. She picked up a small stone and tossed it gently into the lake. The ripples spread across the surface, creating a pattern that seemed almost magical. She smiled faintly, realizing that this lake and the land around it were now symbols of respect, learning, and harmony. Liam returned to his porch and sat in his chair, enjoying the gentle warmth of the sun. He took a deep breath, feeling the soft breeze and listening to the birds. Life at the lake was peaceful, beautiful, and filled with lessons. He felt grateful for the calm, for understanding, and for the knowledge that truth always prevails. He looked at Karen one last time. She was walking away along the path, thoughtful and quiet. Liam smiled to himself. Today had been a remarkable day. A simple misunderstanding had turned into an opportunity to teach, learn, and grow. The lake remained calm. The cabin stood quietly, and nature continued its gentle rhythm. For Liam, life at the lakeside cabin was more than just owning property. It was about understanding, patience, and the quiet power of truth. And now, even someone who had once opposed him had learned the value of respect, fairness, and knowledge. As the afternoon sun shone over the water, Liam felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Life at the lake was peaceful, yet full of lessons that could be shared with others. He knew that misunderstandings could happen, but with patience, honesty, and calmness, they could always be resolved. The lake glimmered in golden sunlight, The birds sang their songs, and Liam's cabin stood as a quiet symbol of peace. Patience and understanding. Today had been a lesson for everyone involved, and Liam felt grateful to be part of a place where beauty, knowledge, and respect coexisted so perfectly. The day had grown warmer, and the gentle breeze from the lake carried the fresh scent of pine through the air. Liam sat on his porch enjoying the calmness that returned after the brief confrontation. He looked at the water, the sunlight dancing across the surface, and felt a quiet satisfaction. Everything was peaceful again. Karen, however, remained nearby. She walked slowly along the lakeside path, still thoughtful from the events of the morning. For the first time, she began to truly reflect on the meaning of ownership and boundaries. The confidence she had carried for years in her role as HOA president had faded, replaced by a realization that knowledge and fairness were more important than assumptions. Liam noticed her lingering presence and smiled gently. "Karen," he called softly, "would you like to sit for a moment? There is a lot to see here, and I think it might help you understand more about the land and the lake." Karen hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She walked toward the porch and sat down carefully on one of the chairs. Her eyes wandered over the cabin and the lake, taking in the beauty that surrounded them. She could see why Liam loved this place so much and why he had been so calm and confident, despite her initial objections. Liam leaned back in his chair and began to explain. "This cabin is just a small part of the property I own," he said. "The lake, the surrounding land, and much of the area beyond are all part of the same ownership. I have spent years maintaining it, keeping it clean and ensuring that nature is respected. That is why it is so important to understand boundaries. Authority cannot extend beyond the limits defined by law." Karen listened carefully, her eyes widening as Liam spoke. She had thought she understood the area and her responsibilities, but now she realized how little she truly knew. The cabin was just the beginning. The land extended far beyond what she had imagined, and it was all legally Liam's. "I see," Karen said slowly. "I had no idea the property was this extensive. I thought my role in the HOA covered this area, but I can now see that it does not. I have made a mistake in assuming authority where it was not mine to take." Liam nodded. "It is natural to make assumptions, especially when you are trying to help others. But facts are always more important than assumptions. That is why I keep all the proper documents, maps, and records. It ensures clarity and prevents misunderstandings." Karen leaned forward slightly, her curiosity growing. "May I see the maps and records?" she asked politely. Liam smiled. "Of course. I will show you everything." He walked back into the cabin and returned with the documents, carefully spreading them on the wooden table. There were detailed maps showing the boundaries of the property, official deeds confirming ownership, and tax records that matched every corner of the land. Karen leaned over the table, examining each document closely. She traced the lines of the maps with her finger, realizing the vast extent of Liam's property. The cabin was just a tiny part of it. The lake, the forests, and much of the surrounding land were all included in his ownership. She was astonished. This is incredible," she said softly. "I never imagined it was this large. You truly own the entire area around the lake and more?" "Yes," Liam replied calmly. "I have legal ownership of the land and I respect it greatly. That is why I maintain it carefully and treat it with the care it deserves. I also respect anyone who visits as long as they do so responsibly." Karen nodded slowly, her mind racing with the new understanding. She realized that her actions earlier, although well-intentioned, were based on incomplete knowledge. She felt a quiet mix of embarrassment and respect. Liam had handled the situation with patience and clarity, showing her the importance of understanding the full facts before acting. "You have managed all of this by yourself?" Karen asked, still amazed. Liam smiled gently. "Mostly, yes. It is a lot of responsibility, but it is worth it. I love this land and I enjoy taking care of it. It is not just about ownership. It is about respect, patience, and understanding. That is why I'm always calm and careful when others misunderstand or question my presence here." Karen's expression softened. "I understand now. I see how important it is to respect ownership and boundaries. I also see how patience and calmness can resolve conflicts far better than anger or force." Liam nodded. "Exactly. Today was a good example. We both learned something. You learned that authority must be based on facts, and I am reminded that clarity and patience are powerful tools. This land is a place of peace, and it should remain that way for everyone who appreciates it. Karen looked out over the lake, taking in the sparkling water, the trees, and the birds flying above. She felt a sense of awe at the scale of Liam's property and the care he had taken to maintain it. For the first time, she saw the lake not as a place to control, but as a space of beauty, life, and harmony. "I want to apologize again," she said softly. "I didn't mean to challenge you or create conflict. I was acting out of habit and a sense of responsibility, but I see now that I overstepped." "I am truly sorry," Liam smiled warmly. "Apology accepted. We all make mistakes, and the important thing is to learn from them. This land is a place for understanding, respect, and peaceful enjoyment. That is why I always welcome dialogue and patience." Karen nodded. She felt a quiet respect for Liam. He had handled the situation with grace, kindness, and clarity, teaching her a valuable lesson without anger or confrontation. She realized that this encounter had changed her perspective. She would no longer assume authority where it did not belong, and she would be more careful to seek facts before acting in the future. The sunlight grew warmer, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of pine across the lake. Birds chirped and flew overhead, adding life to the peaceful scene. Liam and Karen sat quietly for a few moments, enjoying the serenity of the lake and the calm after the morning's tension. Liam gestured toward the surrounding area. "You see this land?" he asked. "I hope one day you will understand why I care so much for it. It is not just about ownership. It is about responsibility, respect, and harmony. Anyone who visits should appreciate it and take care of it, rather than assuming control or authority." Karen nodded slowly. "I understand now. I will be more careful in the future. I will respect boundaries and ownership. And I will remember the lessons I learned today. Thank you for showing me the truth and helping me see the situation clearly." Liam smiled. "You are welcome. I am glad we could resolve this peacefully. Misunderstandings happen, but with patience, respect, and knowledge, they can always be solved. That is the beauty of understanding and harmony." Karen finally stood up and looked around the lake one more time. She felt a sense of gratitude and newfound respect. This place was not just a cabin or a lake. It was a symbol of fairness, knowledge, and the careful balance between nature and human presence. "I will leave you to enjoy your day," she said softly. "But I want you to know that I will not forget this lesson. I will be a better person because of it." Liam nodded. That is all anyone can ask for. Understanding and respect are more valuable than authority or control. I hope that you enjoy the lake and its surroundings responsibly in the future. Karen smiled faintly and walked along the path, leaving Liam to enjoy his cabin and the sparkling lake. He watched her go, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction. Today had been a day of learning, reflection, and harmony. Misunderstandings had been turned into lessons, and respect had replaced conflict. Liam returned to his porch and sat down in his chair, sipping a cup of tea. The sunlight danced across the water, the birds sang, and the gentle breeze rustled the trees. Everything was calm, peaceful, and perfect. He thought about the lessons learned that day. Authority must always be guided by knowledge and fairness. Respect for boundaries and ownership is essential. And patience, calmness, and understanding can turn any conflict into an opportunity for growth. For Liam, life at the lake was more than just owning property. It was about living with integrity, respecting nature, and helping others understand the value of fairness and knowledge. Today had been a powerful reminder of that truth, and he felt grateful for the calm and beauty surrounding him. As the sun began to climb higher, Liam looked at the cabin, the lake, and the trees. Everything was as it should be, peaceful, harmonious, and full of life. He smiled quietly, knowing that the lake and the cabin would continue to be a place of learning, respect, and quiet happiness for years to come. The morning sun rose over the lake, casting a golden glow across the water and lighting up the cabin in warm, peaceful colors. Liam stepped out onto the porch, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. The gentle breeze carried the scent of pine trees, and the soft sounds of birds created a melody that made the lake feel alive and welcoming. After the events of the previous day, life at the cabin felt different. The confrontation with Karen had been resolved peacefully, and the tension that had hung over the lake was gone. Liam felt a sense of calm satisfaction. The land he cared for, The lake he loved and the cabin he had built with patience and hard work were all now a symbol of harmony. Karen had returned the day before, walking slowly along the lakeside path. She had apologized sincerely and promised to respect boundaries and property ownership in the future. Liam had welcomed her calmly and explained the importance of patience, respect, and understanding. Over time, she had begun to see the lake not as a place to control, but as a place to appreciate and protect. This morning, Liam planned to spend the day enjoying the serenity of the lake. He brewed a cup of tea and carried it to the porch, sitting down in his favorite chair. The lake shimmered in the sunlight, the gentle waves moving rhythmically. Small birds hopped along the water's edge and fish occasionally leaped, sending ripples across the surface. The world felt quiet, beautiful, and full of life. As he sipped his tea, Liam thought about the lessons he had learned and the lessons he had shared with Karen. Authority without understanding could create conflict, while patience and clarity could resolve any problem. Ownership was not just about land or property. It was about responsibility, respect, and care for the world around you. Liam set down his cup and walked along the path that bordered the lake. He noticed the flowers blooming along the shore, bright and cheerful. He paused to admire a small cluster of purple flowers and gently touched the petals, feeling their softness. The lake reflected the sky, and the trees swayed gently in the breeze. Every detail reminded him why he had chosen this place as his home. In the distance, Karen appeared, walking carefully along the path. She carried a small basket filled with flowers and other items for the cabin. When she saw Liam, she waved and smiled. Liam returned the gesture, welcoming her presence. Over time, they had developed a mutual understanding. Even though their first encounter had been tense, respect and patience had allowed them to build a quiet friendship. "Good morning, Liam," Karen said softly as she approached. "I thought I would bring some flowers to brighten the cabin and the path. The lake is so beautiful, and it deserves to be cared for." Liam smiled. "Thank you, Karen. That is very thoughtful of you. It is always nice to see the land appreciated by those who respect it." Karen set down the basket and began arranging the flowers along the edge of the porch and the nearby path. She worked carefully, placing each bloom in a way that complemented the natural beauty of the surroundings. Liam watched her for a moment, feeling a sense of gratitude. The lake had brought not only peace but also understanding and harmony. As they worked, Liam spoke gently.
"You know, Karen, this lake and the surrounding land are more than just property.
They are a place for reflection, learning, and enjoying life. I'm glad you can see that now." Karen nodded. "I do. I understand so much more now. Authority is not about enforcing rules blindly. It is about understanding, respecting boundaries, and learning from mistakes. This lake has taught me that lesson." Liam walked toward the water's edge, picking up a smooth stone. He tossed it gently into the lake, watching the ripples spread across the surface.
"Every action has a result," he said.
Even the smallest stone creates ripples. Similarly, our actions toward others and the world around us create effects that can spread farther than we imagine. Karen watched the ripples and nodded thoughtfully. "I see. I realize now that my actions yesterday, though well-intentioned, created unnecessary tension. I am glad we were able to resolve it peacefully." They spent the morning arranging flowers, cleaning the path, and talking quietly about the beauty of nature and the importance of respect. The lake remained calm, its surface glimmering in the sunlight. Birds sang their cheerful songs, and the occasional fish leaped joyfully from the water. Everything was alive, peaceful, and harmonious. After their work was done, Liam and Karen sat together on the porch, enjoying the view. The water reflected the sky and the trees, creating a perfect mirror of the natural world. The cabin stood quietly behind them, a symbol of patience, hard work, and respect for the land. "You know," Karen said softly, "I have learned more here than I ever expected. This place is special. It teaches lessons about life, about patience, and about respect for others. I will carry these lessons with me wherever I go." Liam smiled gently. "That is wonderful, Karen. It is important to remember that harmony comes from understanding and respect, not from control or authority. This lake and this land are a reminder of that truth." The afternoon passed quietly. Liam and Karen enjoyed the gentle warmth of the sun, the soft sounds of nature, and the peaceful energy of the lake. Visitors passed occasionally, walking along the path, smiling at the beauty around them. They noticed the flowers, the calm water, and the sense of care that surrounded the cabin. Everyone seemed to appreciate the tranquility and harmony of the area. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Liam reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the confrontation with Karen to the peaceful resolution and understanding, it had been a day of learning for everyone involved. Authority, patience, respect, and knowledge had all played a role in creating a positive outcome. Karen stood and picked up a small branch that had fallen from a tree. She placed it neatly by the path, careful to maintain the order and beauty of the surroundings. "I understand now," she said softly. "This place is about more than rules. It is about caring for the land and respecting those who live here." "I am grateful for the lesson," Liam nodded. "I am glad. Nature and life have their own balance. We must respect them and respect each other. That is the true meaning of harmony." As the sun set, the lake turned golden and then soft pink, reflecting the colors of the sky. Birds returned to their nests and the gentle breeze carried the scents of pine and flowers. The cabin glowed warmly in the fading sunlight, a peaceful haven surrounded by calm water and vibrant trees. Liam stood on the porch, looking at the lake, and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Life at the cabin had always been about peace, but now it was also about understanding, friendship, and harmony. The land, the water, and the people who respected it could coexist beautifully when guided by patience and care. Karen walked along the path one last time before leaving for the evening. She paused to look at the cabin and the lake, smiling faintly. "Thank you, Liam," she said quietly. "I will not forget this day or the lessons it has taught me." Liam waved and smiled. "You are always welcome here, Karen. Respect and understanding create the best friendships, and I am glad we have reached that point." As darkness slowly approached, the lake shimmered in the last rays of sunlight. Liam lit a small lantern by the porch, its warm glow adding to the peaceful scene. The cabin, the lake, and the surrounding land were calm, quiet, and perfect. Liam sat down once more, sipping a cup of tea and listening to the gentle sounds of the evening. The water lapped softly against the shore. Birds chirped their final songs of the day and the trees swayed gently in the breeze. Everything was harmonious, beautiful, and alive. He thought about the lessons of the day and the importance of patience, understanding, and respect. Authority without knowledge could cause problems, but calmness, clarity, and fairness could resolve them. Ownership was more than property. It was responsibility, care, and respect for life and nature. As the stars began to appear in the sky, reflected in the calm surface of the lake, Liam felt a deep sense of peace. Life at the cabin had reached a state of perfect harmony. Nature, friendship, and understanding had combined to create a beautiful balance that could last for years to come. He smiled quietly to himself. The lake, the cabin, and the surrounding land were more than just property. They were symbols of patience, respect, and harmony. Today had been a journey of learning for everyone involved, and Liam felt grateful for the peace, the beauty, and the quiet lessons that the lake continued to teach. As the night settled over the water, Liam remained on the porch, content and calm. Life at the lakeside cabin was peaceful, meaningful, and full of hope. Harmony had returned, and everyone who visited the lake could enjoy the beauty, respect, and understanding that Liam had nurtured so carefully.